Hey guys, Esti-Fit Chick here. So today I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story with fitness, where I come from, my background, my body type. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the three body types. Now most of the time people are a mixture of the body types. They're not stuck in one category. So what everybody I think wanted to be when we were younger, or one thing that I've always envied, is the ectomorph. These people naturally have a high metabolism, so they can eat and eat and eat and not gain any weight. So I've always been envious of that because I put something in my mouth, or I even look at a cheeseburger and I gain weight. So lucky them for that. The not so lucky part of being an ectomorph is that they have a hard time gaining muscle. So they have a hard time putting that muscle on and maintaining it. They have to eat really high calorie in order to do so. And they also have a smaller build. So their bones, their muscle structure is usually small, and they have like long stringy muscles. So their struggles are going to be gaining that mass. They can eat a lot more though, so lucky them for that. But one downside of that as well is a lot of times they get full easily, so it might be hard for them to consume all of those calories. And they still would want to keep it clean and eating so that way their body is getting the right sort of nutrients. Then there is the endomorph, which is where I fall more into that category. Now the endomorph, they hold fat a lot quicker. They just hold on to it. Their body doesn't want to let go of it. They have a hard time shedding the weight. So they're going to be needing to do a lot more cardio, whereas ectomorph is going to want to avoid cardio unless they do hit cardio. So endomorph definitely want to do some cardio. There is individual training for each type of body that's going to benefit you the most. Everybody is different for all things, so that's one of the reasons why. Now with endomorphs, they're going to be able to gain muscle as well, more so than the ectomorph, but not as much as the mesomorph, which is in the middle. Now the mesomorph, that's kind of what everybody wants to be. That's going to be like your athletic people, the people you see in the gym who are just built and cut, and everybody wants to be that. Those are your natural athletes. Now everybody is usually a combination. They're not set into one. So I'm an endomesomorph. I definitely do have mesomorph qualities in myself. I have the broad shoulders. I do build muscle pretty quickly, which is nice, but the endomorph portion of me, I hold on to fat as well. So I have to be really careful, and I'm very carb sensitive. Mesomorphs, I don't think there's anyone who's a strict mesomorph. Like I said, everyone kind of falls into a mixture of the categories, but that would be the ideal body type for somebody who wants to be in bodybuilding and fitness, or an athlete, because their body is just naturally going to shed the fat quicker than an endomorph would, but also be able to gain that muscle like an ectomorph would struggle with. So that's a quick overview of that. You can always research more about those, and it's good to know what type of body you have. There are different characteristics for each of them. So like I said, I'm an endomesomorph. If you were to look at all of my family, we all tend to be more heavy set. It's just the genes that I was given. Looking back to when I was a kid in school, I always thought I was fat, and I was lean at the time, but it's because my bone structure was bigger than everybody else. So I always just felt like huge around other kids. And I was in soccer, so my dad used to say that he used to be able to do this to my thigh, and then a couple years into soccer, my thighs were really big. So again, with my body type, I gained that muscle really quickly, and I was just bigger than other kids. So like I said, at the time I thought that I was fat, and looking back I was like, wow, I was really lean. Like, I wish I could go back to that, but I guess we just don't appreciate it at the time. We are our hardest critics. So I was pretty lean. I stayed active when I was younger. I was in soccer. I had tons of cousins, so I was always out playing. I swam all of the time. Just a very active child. So that helped me to stay lean when I was younger. Now, when I was in high school, started to go through changes, as we all do with puberty, and that's when I started to gain some weight. As I mentioned in one of my other videos, I struggled with acne and ovarian cysts, so I was put on birth control, and with birth control, I gained like 50 pounds over a short amount of time. It was really upsetting, very depressing, and I remember my mom, she had just bought me school clothes, and then it's like 3 months later I had to go out and get all new clothes because none of my clothes fit, and there wasn't much that I had control over. And it actually kind of led into a cycle of being upset that I was gaining weight, so then I was eating poorly. I didn't want to be active because I was embarrassed to be in front of other kids. So it was just a big cycle. So it's important to love yourself and not fall into the depression and getting upset because you're just gonna basically dig yourself deeper in. I didn't know any better, and my family wasn't really active, so I wasn't raised in like a fit type family, so I didn't really have the resources that I needed or really the support in that aspect to lose the weight. So when I got around 19, I was working out at a fitness center, kind of like the YMCA, but it was just, it was called the Croc Center. It was where they have like the recreation, Parks and Rec, they had a membership. So I got that there. It was affordable for me. I used to work out 7 days a week for like 2 to 3 hours. And still, I wasn't losing fat. I mean, I was gaining muscle, but I wasn't losing fat because I wasn't knowledgeable about how I should be eating. And I tried to make what I thought were healthy eating choices, but I just didn't have the knowledge that I needed, and I didn't have people around me who were knowledgeable about it. Then one day I was driving to work when I was either 19 or 20, and I saw this sign on the back of a truck that said like lose weight, call here. So I called the number, and there was a really nice lady named Rose, and I met with her, and she sold Herbalife. So that's the first thing that I tried. Initially, I didn't really lose anything, but I kept with it, and she helped to kind of educate me about making better choices. So I did the 2 shakes a day and then a meal, and the meal had to be well balanced. I did lose some weight with Herbalife, and it worked for me for a while. So it was definitely a good tool. Now, I mean, I've tried it years down the road, and it doesn't really work for me, but it did work for me in the past. So I definitely wouldn't knock it. I did benefit from it, and I love their tea that they have. It's really good. Just the shakes don't fill me up anymore. So it was a good starting point for me. I had lost plenty of weight with it. Like, I was looking pretty good. Like I said, I was also making other eating choices. And then I saw a nutritionist, and he kind of got me off the shakes for the most part. And I was just eating like no dairy, grain, sugar. I was pretty restricted to what I could eat. But then that's when the pounds really started coming off. And my family, like I said, they're all a little more heavy set, and we went, unfortunately my grandfather passed away, and we went for his funeral, and everyone's like, oh, she's anorexic, because I was different than my family, and I wasn't anorexic at all. It's just I was making healthy eating choices, and that was hard to hear, that criticism from my family. And you're gonna get that anytime you lose weight. Sometimes people are envious. Sometimes that's just not what they think is a good body figure. Everyone's opinion is going to be different. So it's very important that you're happy and you're doing it to please yourself. So that was a really tough thing to deal with, is my family's criticism. And I got into a relationship after that, and life was just busy. I moved, and I kind of just fell off the wagon. I just didn't have the habits and the structures in place, and I was in a relationship where it was about going out and having fun and eating and, you know, drinking, and I really just fell off the wagon. So it wasn't until a couple years later that I got back into fitness, and I will tell you more about that in the next video. So I'll be back with you guys soon. Take care.